Best Irish music on irishradio.org with Jerry Byrne.
I'm Jerry Byrne, it's Irish Radio. Now, since lockdown, I've been speaking to many of the great and the good of Irish music and Irish talent. My next guest is a gentleman who is a multi-platinum selling Christian gospel, country and Irish folk singer. And he was a runner-up in Ireland's National Talent television show You're a Star in 2003-2004. Now, since that, he's established an incredible career with a mix of gospel, Christian, country and folk music. I'm delighted to say hello to James Kilbane. James, how are you?
Hi, Jerry, and hello to all your listeners there. It's great to be on with you, and thanks very much for the opportunity.
James, a real pleasure. One interesting little thing about yourself, you were actually born in London, in Harleston.
I was born in Park Royal, like I'm so many Irish there, pretty close to the Guinness brewery. I think it was certainly there at the time. Now, I wouldn't be much of a Guinness drinker, but I can know it's part of the landmarks of the Park Royal and up around there. And grew up in Harleston in London, and I'd be familiar with Minute Avenue down around there and Cricklewood. So yeah, very much so. Memories of London are very much in my mind, and I go back there occasionally from time to time, not at the moment, sadly, but certainly in the past, over the years, I have family up in Eastcote and Finchley and Wembley and all around those areas, yeah, and I lots of good memories from London.
Right, and did you return to Ireland at a young age?
Mum and Dad came back in and around 75. They wanted to. My sister had been going to school in London, but they wanted to start me off at home here in national school. So came over in 1975. It was somewhat of a change because London life was somewhat a lot faster than Achill Island life in the mid 70s. But came over here and grew up here and had a lot of freedom, a lot of fresh air. The wild Atlantic way, but it not settled in here and grew up here and that here back in Achill, Achill Island.
Achill Island, the county of Mayo, indeed, and it certainly was a major change in in surroundings, from London of 75 to the very far west of Ireland on Achill Island back then. You must have found that a huge change. It was a good thing, possibly you were so young, you were able to adapt quickly to it.
Yes, I did adapt quickly, even to the extent that my Cockney accent, my London accent, they say I lost it in about 6 months. Now, at the same time, through my recordings and interviews, and even my speaking voice, I think it has helped me, because a lot of people in my recordings often point out that I have very clear diction. And that's a great ability to have. I just have it unknowingly. It's something probably that evolved through having a Cockney accent and then kind of it's slipping quietly away over a period of time. But every so often in recordings or interviews, when I'd hear them back, I'd hear little tones of my pronunciations. But settling here in Achill, it was a different life, and right on the coast and boats and fishing. My father went fishing then. He came back about 6 months later. They had a few jobs in construction to finish. And, he settled back here with my mum Mary and Mike and my father and started going back to started school that year, that following September, and settled in. It was a change. I can remember feeling a change. But I think one of the most things was the fresh sea breeze. I can remember that, and clearly my first kind of seeing of seagulls and walking along a shoreline and different things like that. Those things kind of they stick in my head. But look, lots of good memories, lots of nice memories of my life in London when we were there. But and my life in London actually gave me my start in music, and in many ways the introduction. Watching or sneaking up to watch Top of the Pops or Colour TV. What else would have been over there? There was a record player that my uncle lived in London with us. He would have been in his early 20s. He had Elvis, Charlie Pride, the Carpenters, Margot, the early Margot stuff, Big Tom, all of these. And they were the beginnings of my, I guess, love for country music.
Right. Now, you got the huge, of course, you came to national prominence on that show, and it sort of catapulted you.
You're a star, yes.
Yes. No, 2003, 2004.
That's right, yeah. It was 2003. I suppose I was 33 at the time, so like even for that type of a show, I was the oldest person. I think for a long number of years, I was one of the oldest people around the world to have ever gotten into such a national type of a final. Now I think that has changed, but at the time, I wasn't aware of anybody that was on it in and around the 33 and in the finals. But I tended to say I sang a bit of pop, I sang a bit of contemporary material, and I had been gigging lounges for since I was in my early teens. So you couldn't kind of get an idea that you're learning your craft. From walking into big crowds, small crowds, you'd be entertaining people on an off night like a Monday night or a Tuesday night in a hotel bar or whatever. You learn your craft. You learn what makes people react and what makes their clock tick. And I was no expert, but I took some of those learned skills, I guess, and brought them onto the stage. And some of the material that I was selecting kind of was a bit of a surprise to some of the other contestants and also the makers of the program and also some of the judges. But at the same time, I just felt that, songs like King of the Road or Cracklin' Rosie, Love Letter Straight from the Heart, they probably may have been old and hits in the past, in the 50s and the 60s, but at the same time, they had melodies that and a beat that could relate to the young and the not so young. And that simple formula, and I always work to formulas. That simple formula brought me to the final now. And look, the history says I didn't go to Eurovision that year, but the reality is I was never knocked out. I was never brought back on the show. The other contestant was. And I worked it all the way to the final. 33-year-old, married with kids, and it was just fantastic experience. And also for my island community, it was out of this world situation. The exposure that it was then. It was national exposure, 9 o'clock news stuff, week in, week out. Like it was crazy. I hear the stories of people and their experiences at the time. But it certainly was. Look, there was things that I kind of put to play, and even on a national scale. And I was very lucky to have, in the years preceding that, gone into third level education, where I had learned a certain amount of public relations and marketing at a university level, third level education, and all these little things. They all come together and they're all a help, You can't beat the bit of education either,
Indeed, and the interesting thing about I think it's very encouraging for people when you say about doing the education third level. You didn't finish second level because of problems with dyslexia.
Yeah, well, I'm dyslexic, and I'd be moderate. I learned over in that period of time. Once I learned to type. And I'd be maybe 40, 45 words a minute as a typist, or 40 words a minute, upper 30s, depending on how much I'm at it. But I was very good at the time. I'd learned that, and that made a huge difference to me. You grasp these things, and I think there's a huge amount of adults out there who like that in the 60s and the 70s and maybe parts of the 80s. Really, until the 90s, in Ireland here, they'd special kind of education for people who might. We would have back then in the day. I'd have been considered a slow learner, kept back in national school, and that wasn't really the way to do it. We just needed a little bit of focus on certain things. But look, looking back on things, it's easy to look back and say today, this could have been done, that could have been done. The knowledge within the experts even wasn't wholesale knowledge at the time. It was being refined. Thanks be to God, it's an awful lot better for youngsters today. But yes, I came through that situation, and look, I might think and look at things differently. Like I even in my work, Jerry, I keep things simple. I keep, even in designing, when we were designing sleeves and albums and websites and different things like that, keep things simple. Keep things to a format and a model, and you'll still get there. Might be a little bit slower, but you'll still get there. You'll still have the success. Success will still come.
Exactly.
You stick at it. It's sticking at it.
Indeed. That's that is the other thing. Now, you've recorded a lot of material over the years. You've sold a huge amount of CDs, and also doing extremely well online streaming at the moment.
Well, it's growing. I wouldn't get too excited about it, but at the same time, it's growing. It's growing, and it's growing in market. Like with the lockdown, and we're also grateful to all the people. And I know I very much thoughts and prayers to everybody over there that, there's a big part of my heart and my life with London and England. And, but in this period of lockdown, and the COVID situation, people, I'm delighted or happy with the feedback that I'm just happy that I've been able to reach so many people, and so many people in the UK. The UK is right there behind Ireland in a lot of the work that is out there on Spotify and the streamings and on Facebook. And if there's anybody listening, please do make sure to log into, or you can check out my Facebook page, James Kilbane Music, and you'll be able to find me on my website, www.jameskilbane.net. So you'll be able to find me in all these locations. And there might be something that just might be a help to you in your day. And that's simply, Jerry, my approach, creating nice music, songs that mean something to me, and something I hope they mean a lot to a lot of people. And there's variety there. Like, as you had said, there's gospel music, there's country gospel, there's, hymns, there's Irish music there, there's Irish gospel music there. There's so many country songs there that people would dance around the floor to as well. So, like, I have recorded over the years over 200 material songs released between everything, and if not more. And there is the variety there for people. Inspirational music. There's a lot of inspirational songs as well. Look, you just keep it simple. That's what I always say, and be able to relate to the person. And in these circumstances, I'm just delighted that I've got the feedback from people that my music has helped them along the way. Thank God for that.
Indeed. Now, the interesting thing that you've done, I found very interesting, James, was since 2016.
Thank you.
The Hotel Westport in County Mayo, you've created a unique Christian-based holiday. Can you tell us about that?
Well, that was called Spirit and Soul of Mayo, or Spirit. We started to go into County Galway and other areas, so we just kind of called it Spirit and Soul, and heritage, faith, culture, and relaxation, and all of those things were captured in a week, Monday to Friday, 5 days. People came from all around the country. We'd actually people from abroad in the UK as well, Scotland, different parts of England. There was a group that flew into Knock on one of them. We did about 16 holidays, and it was in conjunction with Hotel Westport. Under the circumstances, it's not possible, but it certainly was going very, very well. And looking into the future, we do hope to do it again. Like wonderful trips, Kylemore Abbey, up to the Cage of Fields, or not the Cage of Fields, up to Ballina, Foxford Woolen Mills, Ballintubber Abbey, Kylemore Abbey, Achill, Westport House. We did cover a lot of ground, and entertainment and talks and basket making and creel making, just all of these things. We did capture a huge amount. It was from Sunday night to Friday morning was the running of the holiday, and we did it 3 times a year. It was a great success since about 2016, yeah. And but at the moment it's not possible. But please God, maybe in 2021 or 2022, because it was a great model and it was a great success.
That's it's absolutely excellent. And listen, another little string to your bow. You also do sheep farming.
I do. It's one of my. I wouldn't call it a hobby. It's. I guess I don't play. I always use the term I don't play golf. I'd like to play golf. I do enjoy golf, but I get a buzz. I get a buzz out of farming and I do enjoy sheep farming. I've been at it since about 1992, Jerry. I started off very small. It started with one, and we're probably up over 100 now at the moment. And I have an approach to it, and it works grand. And I'd have customers that come back to me every year. So it does take up a little bit of time, but it's fresh air. Once I finish now today, I'll be. I have some work to do, and there's lots of singers in America. There's lots of artists, singers. George Strait comes to mind. He's got horses. Brendan Shine is another great farmer. He's got cattle. He's in Midlands there and around the Athlone. Brendan has a farm. Mick Foster he loves his horses. He has horses. So there's excuse me. There's lots of them. Even Patrick Feeney, I think he's got a herd of cattle that I think they're Aberdeen Angus. I think maybe Patrick Feeney has. So there's lots of us.
Indeed.
In the music industry that I'm in Achill Island, so sheep farming is the big thing here.
Right.
But I enjoy it, Jerry. Yeah.
Yes, it is. It's as well as being a job and all the rest. It's
great to give a balance. Keep you in tune with nature.
Very much so, and it's in its own way. Even though it can be tough work and all the rest of it, it's mentally stimulating.
It is, yeah. On a frosty day, or when you're having to be feeding through the winter, I kind of feed every 2 days or whatever it be. You'll always have maybe the odd time of feed. There's always surprises. There's always something. Farming just isn't a fair weathered day. But look, people love to boat. People love to sail. And it becomes a labour of love. But I can tell you they'll be out on stormy enough, windy days if they're out for any period of time. And their one thing they're guaranteed to do is get wet. So it's I suppose you could nearly say it's a little bit of a hobby. I wouldn't look at it like that. There's a certain buying and selling and marketing, but it's like music. It just doesn't move. If anybody thinks that you become successful by leaving somebody else to do the work, you won't be very successful. That's only you just have to get up. And I'm pleased with the product that I sell locally, and I have buyers from different parts of the country coming at a certain time of the year because they get good stock. Same thing with the music. You create a good product, have your heart and soul in your mind and believe in your product, and it'll gather momentum. I'd love to be an awful lot more over the years singing in England, but it just didn't evolve that way. I would go several times a year. I won't be going this year, but I go a number of times a year to America. And I did develop a certain network there where I travel to different locations across the States, and I like that. I'm very grateful for everybody, even though I haven't had a physical presence in England. My music is traveling very nicely there, and even more so now over the past few years. For music-wise, I worked a lot with the St. Paul bookshops, their chain of bookshops there, and also the Pauline chain of bookshops there that go across the UK. And we've had a good relationship for the past 6 or 7 or 8 years. And I know on websites, and my music has been sold as well. So look, I'm grateful for all the support I've received from England and also the airplay. And thanks a million for that. It is changing, but we'll change with it. Because we have always changed with the music, as it has moved along. Indeed
so. From back in the days when I spoke to you, when you were over back in the early 2000s, and you were over actually playing in the Galtymore back in the day.
Galtymore, yeah, I can always say I played in the Galtymore. Mightn't have played that many as other artists, certainly not as some of the legends of Irish music, but yes, I did. I had my night in the Galtymore, and I can remember it well. Indeed. We had a lovely crowd and a good night.
Indeed, fabulous stuff. I remember that. It was your very first visit, actually, to the Galtymore that night. Remember it well. James, listen, it's been absolutely a pleasure to catch up with you. It's fascinating to speak to you. And listen, well done on everything you've done. And I wish you loads of success in the future.
Well, thanks very much, Jerry. And just let the music is widely available and very easily shipped. I'm shipping every week to people buying in the UK on the different platforms and on the different sites. Very grateful to people, and you'll find my music all across the Spotify's and the Amazons and the Apple Music, iTunes, and also Amazon, and also the sites that I mentioned that sell my music in the UK. And I'm very grateful to you and everybody who played the music. And thanks a million for that, and the opportunity. And check me out on Facebook and check my website. And thanks, Jerry.